Hey everybody out there, today for you guys we're going to be profiling a pretty fun deck that some new support came out at the end of last year, and I've been playing it a little bit on the side just for some fun over the last couple of months. And that is a deck that a lot of people do hate, but I personally love because I love control decks, and that is Counter Fairies. Yes. I have hollowed this deck out a lot more because I just love Counter Fairies. I love the way they function. The thing people don't understand about Counter Fairies is they take a lot of, you have to know a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh to play this deck properly, I feel like. Yes, you could just activate effect, trap, counter trap after counter trap after counter trap, negating your opponent's things, but to play the deck properly, you really need to know your opponent's deck. And what do I mean by that? You have to know your opponent's key plays, when they activate them, what their key combos are, things of this nature. And if you know that, you can activate the traps at the proper time to do the most damage to your opponent. That's how this deck really functions. That's where it shines, if you know when to activate stuff. So, without further ado, let's get to the deck profile. Like I said, I do love this deck to pieces. It's pretty straightforward, but I love it. I just love Counter Fairies. It's one of not one of my favorite decks, but I do like control decks at heart. Just ask Necro Valley and GKs. So first off, we have our three. I'm so happy I hollowed these bad boys out. But 3 Bountiful Artemis. You activate a counter trap card, you get to draw a card. Simple as that. Now I'm going to mention there's different types of builds we have of Counter Fairies out there nowadays. I've seen Ties of the Brethren be played still, so if you wanted to play Ties of the Brethren, you can. But this is the Card of Demise version of the deck. But 3 Bountiful Artemis, I'm going to put those bad boys up here for right now. And 3 Aria Grande. Yes, I said that with a straight face. I don't know why, but ever since this card came out back in Bosch, I have, for the last 3 years now, been calling this card Aria Grande, even though it's guiding Ariane. I know it's guiding Ariane, guys. I just like calling it Aria Grande. That's my nickname for the deck. And it gets a laugh out of a whole bunch of people. So pretty much you have this in your pendulum zone. What you can do is you can activate your counter traps and have to pay the cost. So if you activate a Solemn Strike, you don't have to pay the 1,500 life points to negate a card. You can just negate it. So if you can get a board of Aria Grande and Bountiful Artemis, like Bountiful Artemis on your field with Aria Grande in the pendulum zone with a bunch of counter traps, you're in a good position right there because you'll be drawing cards by activating the counter traps and not have to pay the cost. But yeah, Guiding Ariane is a very good card, definitely a staple 3 of in the deck. So let's put them over here. Next up we got ThreeCondemned Witch. Now this is a new card that came out out of Soul Fusion, which is a pretty good card. And when I initially saw Condemned Witch, I said to myself, this card will definitely be used in Counter Fairies because it helps you tutor out Bountiful Artemis, number 1. Number 2, it can also tutor out Guiding Ariane, but it's up to you. But I'm going to read the card if you guys are not familiar with this card. It came out as a secret rare out of the last set. It's a level 4 Fairy Dark. When this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 Forbidden Quick Play spell card from your deck to your hand, which we'll talk about here in a second. During your opponent's main phase, okay, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon 1 level 4 Fairy monster from your deck, except Condemned Witch. You can only use this effective Condemned Witch once per turn. So this is pretty much, think of this as an extra copy of Bountiful Artemis and your other Counter Fairy cards. As for the ability to search a quick play, a forbidden card, I decided to put Forbidden Chalice in the deck because Forbidden Chalice negates effects. So you have more effect negation. And sometimes, mind you, I do use it on my own monster if I'm trying to beat over something. But for the most part, you're going to use this as another negation. We'll talk more about Forbidden Chalice and the ratios you can run when we get to that, but ThreeCondemned Witch is definitely a staple in the deck. Yes, you activate it on your opponent's turn, but this is a lone flyer type of card, I find. So pretty much what you can do is you can have your board set up with a whole bunch of counterplays. Maybe even have Guiding Ariane in your Pendulum Zone. You normal summon the Condemned Witch. You tribute off the Condemned Witch on your opponent's turn. You bring out Bountiful Artemis. And then there you go. You're set up. Or you can bring out Minerva, the Scholar of the Sky, which we'll talk about here in a second. But definitely love this card as a 3-of in the deck. Next up, we run 3 Minerva, Scholar of the Sky. Just 2 of it, which is a pretty good card in its own right. It gains attack and things of that nature, so he can become a little bit of an attacker. And he helps you recycle things as well, which we'll read here if you guys don't know what it does. Each time a counter trap is activated, immediately after this card resolves, gain 5,000 attack. And if it does, the Sanctuary in the Sky and Sanctuary of the Sky is on the field. Add 1 counter trap with a different name from your graveyard to your hand. So on top of gaining the 500 attack, which he can get big, and you can also tutor him out through Condemned Witch. On top of that all, what you also can do is recycle your traps that are engraved, your counter trap cards, which is really nice. So if you have the board set up properly, this card is really good. Next up, we run 1 Sanctuary Arc Aeronite Parshaft. This is kind of like the boss monster of the main deck. The way we bring this out, if you guys are wondering, is we're going to be using the counter trap card Rebirth of Parshaft. This is the card that brings this out. It also helps bring out the Synchro Parshaft as well. So if you're wondering how do we go for the Synchro even though we don't have tuners, it's because of Rebirth of Parshaft. How do we go for this? It's Rebirth of Parshaft. That's how we do it. And some people don't like running this, but I do like it as a 1-of in the deck. Now let's get on to the spell lineup. 3-card Demise in the deck. Like I said, I've always found when I tried Ties of the Brethren versions and card Demise and I mushed them together back in the day, they just don't mesh that well. You can either just run card Demise or you can run Ties of the Brethren. You keep them separate and you can build your deck that way. But especially now with Condemned Maiden, Ties of the Brethren is something I have been trying out, but I'm really liking the card Demise because it helps you add a whole bunch of your counter traps so you can just set them and then you can go off from there. So you got your your yin and your yang with which ones you want to run, but I like the card Demise for the draw power for the deck. So 3-card Demise. Next up, 3 Sanctuary of Parshaft prevents your back row from being destroyed, and on top of that, it gives you attack bonus, which is nice, and on top of that, it counts as Sanctuary in the sky. So there you go. We also do run, in addition to that, 1 Sanctuary in the Sky. May cut this out down the road for something else, but I always found that I wanted to at least have 4 versions of Sanctuary in the Sky in the deck. This card's not that good, but it's useful to have in the deck. There is a monster that you can pitch from your hand to search this out, which is cool, but I decided to cut that out, and I just like the 1 Sanctuary in the Sky. It's just nice to have, and it's a field spell as well, so it doesn't clog up my back row as much as this does for counter traps. So I do like it as a 1-of just in case. Next we run 2 Pod Duality. This is also a staple in Counter Fairies. You go Pod Duality, card Demise stuff, you get where this is going. It's pretty good. You could run 3 Duality, but I just like the 2-of. Because it's once per turn. And then 1 Forbidden Chalice. I may add another Forbidden Chalice in the deck and take out Sanctuary in the Sky, but I do just like the 1 Forbidden Chalice because you don't want to run too much of the card. Like, it's a good card, I get it. I mean, it's amazing, but you don't want to run too many of it. And in the fact that it's searchable through Condemned Witch is the reason why I run it even in the deck. I wouldn't run it in the deck if I wasn't running Condemned Witch, but you can try 1 to 2 of this card. But I just like it as a 1-of, as another additional negation in the deck. Then we have 2 Rebirth of Parshaft. You have to set this card up properly if you want to use it, so do keep that in mind because you have to have a counter trap in hand, so do keep that in mind when you're doing that. It does conflict a little bit with card Demise, so that's another thing you need to keep in mind as well, but overall, pretty good card. We also run, additionally, 2 Ultimate Providence. This card's like it's a really good card, especially if you have Guiding Ariane up in the Pendulum Zone. very good card. It's just a bunch of negations. Additionally, we run 3 Drastic Dropoff. Now the reason we run 3 Drastic Dropoff is because Drastic Dropoff pretty much helps trigger your Bountiful Artemis, your Guardian Ariana, and your Minerva Scholar, because this can be activated right away. It doesn't have any prerequisites, anything of that nature. You activate, your opponent discards a card, you get to draw a card, and your Minerva will gain the 500 attack, and you can recycle your counter trap. So that's something to keep in mind. Next up, 2 Divine Punishment. It's pretty much just another negation. You have Sanctuary in the Sky on the field, you can activate this. Then we got the Solemns, which is kind of funny, I find, because if you guys know the story behind the Solemn Brigade, and especially Solemn Strike, who is in the picture again, right? Yeah, it's Condemned Witch, or Condemned Maiden, as she's called in, I think, Strike. But, yeah, a little bit of a story here with these two, with these guys right here, with Condemned Witch and the Solemn Brigade, which is something funny I found out when I was dueling someone and they brought it up to me a month or so ago. I found that kind of funny, but you guys know what the Solemn Brigade does. You understand why it's good in the deck. It's just straight up amazing. And then lastly, we run Broken Line. There's a couple more traps we'll talk about here in a second. Broken Line, the reason I don't run more Broken Line is because as soon as your opponent sees a Broken Line, they're going to start watching where they put their cards at. So if you put this in a certain spot, you activate it. It's just another, judgment for you. But you have to put it, like, it's best to put it, in an extra deck monster zone or something of that nature so you can negate something. But once they see that one Broken Line, they're going to be very careful. When I did take this to locals one night to play, I would keep siding this out. So I was trying to play a little mind game with my opponents, so with Broken Line, because they would see it once and then they would be very careful in case there was more Broken Line. So yeah, if you can get it off in one of your games, side it out after that game, because the opponents can be very careful. Next up, I run 3 Stormy Mirror Force. The reason we run 3 Stormy Mirror Force is this helps protect your boards. Now, it's not a counter trap, it's a Mirror Force card. It is slow, I get it. But if you have your Bountiful Artemis out and your Minerva, you want to protect that board. You really, really do. And if your opponent's trying to make this crazy board and do all these things, it's just nice to bounce everything back to the extra deck or whatever. So I like it in the deck. I've done more playtesting with it recently since I last updated this video, and it's a staple 3 of, I feel like, in this deck. It's a trap card, yes, it is slow, but it helps protect your board, and if your opponent's trying to make a big board and you're kind of low on resources, it's just a nice thing to bounce everything back. So I definitely like the 3 Storm Mirror Force in the deck. On to the extra deck quickly. We got our Field Center of Dark Magician Girl. So the extra deck is something you go into, but you don't go into a lot. So I'm going to be honest with you there. You're not going to go into the extra deck a lot. This is a very main deck focused deck. So you can run whatever you really want to. Bagasucha, Tornado Dragon, Kugamaka Luminescent Knight I like because if I don't have the Parshaft spell card, the card that's treated as the continuous spell card that's treated as Sanctuary in the Sky up, this is a way, if I really need to, help them target other things instead of certain cards I want to. It's just there, but you can take it out if you want to. 1 Exciton Knight if you're low on resources. Utopia, Seed Utopia, and Utopia the Lightning. This and Exciton Knight are going to be some of your cards that you're going to use the most in your extra deck. As for the Synchros, we discussed earlier how we bring this out through the Parshaft Trap card, but Air Knight Parshaft, I run 2 of those. For your Link plays, we run Cerberus and Phoenix, Unicorn, if you can go into these, 1 Summon Sork, just because, Borreload and Boar Sword. So this is just there if you go for it. Like I said, the main things you're going to go for in this entire deck most of the time are the Parshafts, the Lightning, and the Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. Besides that, you're not going to go for anything else really in this deck. That is the main things you're going to go for most of the time, because really you don't want to use your monsters to go for Exceed plays or Link plays most of the time with this deck. You want to use their effects on field so you can propel your deck to function using your counter traps. But that's the deck in the nutshell. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love the fact that I've been rarity bumping this deck slowly. I still need to find some secrets of these, but they're kind of hard to come by at the moment. But I hope you all enjoyed the deck profile. Till next time, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and I'll see all of you guys next time. And if you like this video, don't forget to support us on Patreon, and good luck dueling to all of you.